Welcome back, scholars, to our Digital Academy. I am Professor Spark. Whether we are turning the pages of a timeless novel, our mission remains the same. Will today's sweep us into the concert hall? Let's find out together.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's final and, honestly, ultimate operatic masterpiece, the Magic Flute. If you think you know what opera is, well, get ready. Uncovering the hidden secrets in this specific work completely changed how I view both music and history, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But hey, before we even look at a single note on the page, I want you to consider a little mystery. What do a giant serpent, secret societies, and the French Revolution all have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a wild historical thriller, right? Well, the answer is that they all intercept in what we can comfortably call history's most profound and deceptive fairy tale. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a brilliant disguise. On the surface, the Magic Flute looks like this quirky, magical story. But hidden right there on the inside, Mozart is packing in deep Enlightenment philosophy and real human empathy. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, a deceptive fairy tale. And just look at this surface-level plot. So the whole thing kicks off with Prince Tamino literally running for his life from a giant serpent. To understand how Mozart pulled this wild fantasy off, we really have to look at the genre he and his librettist, Emanuel Schikaneder, used, which is Singspiel. It's basically a German-language opera that blends spoken dialogue with musical numbers. This format was absolute genius because it allowed them to seamlessly mix super solemn, serious rituals with straight-up slapstick comedy and folksy theater. It was perfectly designed to grab a really broad audience. So here is your classic fantasy setup. Tamino faints, is rescued by three ladies, and falls instantly in love with a portrait of Princess Pamina. Enter the spectacular Queen of the Night, who is Pamina's mother, claiming her daughter was abducted by an evil high priest named Sarastro. She arms Tamino with a magic flute and pairs him up with his hilarious bird-catching sidekick named Papagino, who gets his own set of magic bells. It seems like your standard hero's journey, right? Well, that brings us to Section 2, flipping the script. So the crucial point here is that halfway through, the truth is completely inverted. The entire moral universe of the story just turns upside down. The Queen of the Night, who appeared as this sympathetic, grieving mother, is revealed to be a symbol of superstition, vengeance, and total irrational passion. She's incredibly hollow and manipulative. Meanwhile, Sarastro, who we thought was this evil kidnapper, he's actually the wise leader of a brotherhood of enlightenment. He only took Pamina to protect her from her mother's toxic influence. Let's move on to Section 3, the secret Masonic blueprint, and look at some of these hidden layers. You see this massive plot twist? It's actually a coded message. Both Mozart and Schikaneder were Freemasons, and grounding ourselves in the historical timeline makes this so fascinating. In 1789, the French Revolution just completely shook Europe. By the 1790s, the ruling classes were terrified, actively suppressing secret societies like Freemasonry. Right in the middle of this tense powder keg, in 1791, just months before Mozart's death, this opera premieres in Vienna. It's literally an allegory for the real-life struggle between Enlightenment progress and reactionary authoritarian forces happening right outside the theater doors. Now, what's really interesting is this massive recurring Masonic symbol we see everywhere, the number 3. I mean, this number absolutely permeates the entire plot and the score. Tamino encounters 3 ladies, he's guided by 3 spirits, and faces 3 temple gates. Musically, we repeatedly hear these 3 solemn chords, which actually evoke the exact 3 secret knocks of a Masonic ritual. Mozart is totally turning a simple fairy tale into a hidden blueprint for his brotherhood. And the core of that blueprint is Tamino's journey, which directly mirrors a true Masonic path of initiation. To prove their virtue and readiness, Tamino and Papagino have to endure specific trials. First, a trial of silence, where they literally cannot speak to the women they love, followed by intense trials of fire and water. Passing these steps means finally shedding ignorance for the true light of reason. All right, let's jump to Section 4, decoding the musical score. Because Mozart didn't just write pretty background music, he coded these philosophical ideals directly into the keys, forms, and orchestration. The overture alone is literally a map of the opera's philosophy. From the very first notes, it starts with a mysterious, formless adagio representing chaos and ignorance. But then it transitions beautifully into a lively, highly structured fugue. The music itself symbolizes the journey from darkness into ordered reason and enlightenment. He also assigns very specific musical styles to match the ideological divides of the characters. The Queen of the Night sings with this virtuosic fury in dramatic minor keys like C minor. Sarastro, in total contrast, sings with ceremonial grandeur in noble E-flat major, which, keeping with our theme, has exactly 3 flats. I mean, how brilliant is that? Finally, Papageno sings with a simple, German lead-like joy, just earthy folk tunes that really grounds the philosophy for the everyday person. And bridging all of this together, of course, is the titular magic flute itself. Playing the flute calms wild beasts and safely guides the soul through the trials of fire and water. It's this beautiful representation of how art and rational thought can civilize us and harmonize the absolute chaos of nature. Which leads us nicely into Section 5, the human emotional core. Because let's be real, without emotion, this whole thing would just be a dry, boring philosophical lecture. But Mozart brilliantly grounds all this lofty philosophy in deeply relatable human emotions. When Tamino first sees the portrait, he sings a tender outpouring of youthful idealism and awakening love. Later, when Pamina thinks Tamino has rejected her during the silence trial, she sings this heartbreaking lament of despair that just makes you feel her total emotional isolation. And then there's Papageno. His famous suicide aria is incredibly comically self-pitying, yet full of touching everyday pathos. Mozart just plumbs the absolute depths of human feeling here. Ultimately, all that emotional tension resolves through this profound sense of connection, highlighted by 2 very contrasting duets. First, you have the noble royals, Tamino and Pamina, singing of steadfast love amid the very real physical danger of the trials. Conversely, the earthly birdcatcher Papageno finally finds his perfect match in Papagena. Their famous Papa Pop Pop duet is just pure, joyful longing for companionship. It beautifully proves a vital Enlightenment ideal, that wisdom, love, and harmony truly embrace all levels of society. So, as the forces of darkness are finally defeated, the collective wisdom of the Brotherhood is affirmed. The message is just incredibly clear and intensely optimistic. Through trials, music, love, and reason, humanity can absolutely achieve enlightenment and harmony. You know, the magic flute really isn't just some dusty relic from 1791 Austria. Its lessons about overcoming superstition with reason and despair with true empathy are completely timeless. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. In our own times of trial, amidst all our own chaos and noise today, are we listening for the magic flute? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep seeking that harmony in your own life, and I'll see you next time.